Unknown Legend. So this song, yeah, it's in standard tuning and very, very simple chords. It contains a grand total of 2 chords in the entire song, G and C. Pretty much played in a standard way, although Neil Young favours playing it like this, I've noticed. That makes sense because he does a hammer on there, but we'll get to that. And straight away I've noticed that he doesn't really emphasise that string too much in this song. So he doesn't really go like that. It's quite softly strummed, okay, so, and he doesn't really go for the E string much. It's more just more like that. She used to work in a diner, never saw a woman. And what he does that little hammer onto the B string on the first fret, which just follows the melody. So, used to work in a diner, never saw a woman look finer. Pretty straightforward. So doing that, not really playing that E string. All very soft as well, very softly strummed. Now this is the tricky bit. So this is, although it's a very simple song, 2 chords throughout the whole thing, you got to get the timing right if you're singing it, because she used to work in a diner. Okay, pretty straightforward. Never saw a woman look finer. Okay, and then when do you start the next line? Because it's, I used to order just to watch her float across the floor. Well, he starts singing on the next beat, beat, but he misses a beat. Okay, so never saw a woman look finer. Never did it. So he misses a beat. Instead of going, never saw a woman look finer, I used to order just to watch it. That doesn't work. So what he does is he misses a beat and then starts singing the next line. So it's never saw a woman look finer, I used to order just to watch her float across the floor. And that is trickier than it seems on paper. The way I do it is I think of the bass string as the bass drum, and then that as the snare drum. So I used to order just to watch her float across the floor. So you're starting singing on the bass drum, on the 1, but it's not at the start. You miss a bar, kind of thing. You start halfway through the bar. Never saw a woman look finer, I used to order just to watch her float across the floor. So it's, I used to order just to watch her. Like that. I used to order just She grew up in a small town, never put her roots down. Daddy always kept moving, so she did too. Same thing, he misses the beat. Daddy always kept moving, so she did too. And then it finishes at the right place. Somewhere on a desert highway. So that's pretty simple, it just goes from G to C. Somewhere on a desert highway. The C comes in on the desert. Somewhere on a desert highway, she rides a Harley Davidson, her long blonde hair flying in the wind. That's the chorus basically, and obviously the other half of the chorus. Okay, so that's the basic kind of strumming. I find it does help to just strum with the thumb. Strum with the thumb. Sounds like the right softness. So the other thing is the kind of lead bit as well, which you can play along with the chords. Again, very simple. It's just finger on the 2nd fret on the A string, and then move up to the 3rd fret, and then open D. No, just to the open D. And then the next variation is so just the other way. 3rd fret, 2nd fret, open D. And then open E. Instead of going to the open D, it goes to the open E. And then it goes open E, finger on the 3rd fret on the E string, and then open D. And then you come back to the beginning. So it is straightforward enough that you can play that along with the chords if you're coordinated enough. Let's see if I am today. And the trick is to keep strumming softly on those open strings while you're doing that. So all this. This is the tricky bit, so if you can play the open E string with a C, like that. But it's good. The tricky bit is to go for because he goes to the E string a fraction before the chord kicks in. So I always do that. I always leave a tiny little gap to get my hands back into position, because I always leave a little gap, because if you do it at the same time, it just sounds like you're going like that. And you don't want that, because it's not really doing that in the song. So I go, just leave a beat, and then that's pretty easy, because you're already so I think there's always a bit of a gap. Yeah, there's always a beat before I start strumming. Just to let the note play out a bit. Yeah, it's a really good effect, because if you can avoid touching the open string as it's ringing out, sounds like, two guitars almost, kind of. Yeah, And when you're playing those bass notes, when you go back to the G, try not to play the bass string too loudly. Like that. Just softly play those open strings, the G and the B. Because if you go, you want to let that ring out. You want that to be louder than the strumming. Otherwise it just gets buried. But yeah, that's basically the whole song. It's pretty straightforward, but like I say, it's the timing. You know it ain't easy, you know it ain't easy, you got to hold on. She was an unknown legend. So again, yeah, you have to start singing she was on the bass drum. She was on the one. She was an so it's she was, not she was. You don't start the was on the one, it's she on the one. Okay, I hope that makes sense. She was an unknown legend in her time. So let me see if I can do that again. You got to hold on. She was an unknown legend in her time. So you can hear them doing that as well. There's a bit of a run. It runs up to it steps up to the 3rd fret as it goes up to the C. Just on the A string, open, finger on the 2nd fret, finger on the 3rd fret, because you're going to the C. That's another thing as well. So when it comes back down from the C, she's been running half her life. She's been you can either do it like half her life, like that, half her life, or you can go she's been running half her life. Do the G but with a hammer on the B string. So instead of, you could do that, or you could do. So you've just got to remember to do that. She's been running half her life. The chrome and steel she rides, colliding with the very air she breathes. The air she breathes. And that's basically the song. 2 chords, but once you get all the fine details with these Neil Young songs, there's always some very particular little details that actually make it into quite a satisfying thing to play when you've worked it out. All the little details and the timing of the verses and the chorus and the lines makes it interesting, and that's probably why it's such a popular song. It's got some nice little hooks in there. So there you go, that's Unknown Legend from Harvest Moon, and I want to do a few more songs from that album as well. So if you found this useful or entertaining or even just mildly diverting for a few minutes, thank you for watching. Check out the other vids on this channel, and subscribe if you're not already, because I'll be doing a lot more. There's a lot more Neil Young songs to go through. So thanks for watching, bye for now.